Welcome, Kate Moore, composer. We are here in the Grote Kerk in Den Bosch, and the last day of November music is happening around us. And I'm so happy to have you here at the table today.
Thank you.
And during these festivals, there were two concerts with your works. One of them was with the songs for Ensemble Vonk, and the other one was with the Cello Octet Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And could you please tell me something about your collaboration with the Cello Octet? Because I think that's quite a long relationship already, right?
Yeah, certainly. Funnily enough, the first time I met the Cello Octet was really a very long time ago, before they are in their current formation. I think it was in the year 2000, either 2000 or 2001, really a long time ago in the Conservatorium of Amsterdam. And it was the first time I visited Holland on my own. I won a trip to Europe to do a residency in Paris, and as a result, then I came over to Holland to the open day, and I have some family members here also. And then one of my aunts actually knew a member of the octet, and she put me in contact with them. So actually they were the first ensemble that I met in Holland.
Wow, so they were one of your first connections with the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Because you grew up in Australia and then you moved here to study.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. My mother was born here, and that's the connection. So when I went to Paris, that was actually my first trip to Europe since my family went back to Australia from England. So it was a really big event for me. So then I reconnected with my family, but also that's the first time I sort of had contact with the Dutch music scene as well.
Fantastic. And so one of that first contacts was the Cello Octet.
Literally the first.
Not the least contact. And you played the cello yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, cello is my instrument, yeah.
So from a child, you played the cello?
Yes.
Wow, fantastic. Does that... Well, obviously, that helps you as a composer, doesn't it?
Well, for sure. I mean, cello being my instrument, I write a lot of my music at the cello. In order to write music, I have to first make the music. So I make it on my instrument.
So what does the composing process look like for you? How do you start? And is there a long research phase first, or do you immediately grab your cello or piece of paper? How does it work in your head?
Yeah, I mean, every project is different, of course. It's a combination. I mean, I always have my ears and eyes open. So research, my whole life is also research, experiences and inspirations. And I read a lot. I find a lot of inspiration from reading.
What kind of books do you read, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, all sorts of books, like history books, philosophy.
Didn't you study something philosophy-like too?
No, I've always studied composition right from the start. But I guess, well, my teachers have always my teacher in Australia was also a musicologist and also very much into philosophy. And he was very much into a very academic approach to reading a lot. So that was always part of my study, not just about writing notes, not just about sound, but also about thinking about what the sound means and where it comes from. And the root of an idea, which is very much about philosophy, I guess, and symbolism and all of those sorts of things.
Yeah, so that creates a bigger picture than just music and just notes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's very important to me, to make a connection between thought and ideas and inspiration and how that relates to one's surroundings, whether it be nature or whether it be a place.
Yeah, because on your Instagram I see a lot of nature.
Yeah, that's true.
Last spring I very much enjoyed this journey of the little maple tree that you had.
Oh, my maple tree.
Yes, your beautiful maple tree in the center of Amsterdam.
Yeah.
What happened with the maple tree?
Oh,
How is he now?
Yeah, my maple tree is thriving, just on the edge of autumn. It's a little bit warmer in my house than outside, so all the trees have already lost their leaves, but my little maple is only just beginning to go a little bit yellow from the autumn colours. Excuse me. Oh, my little maple tree. It was the storm Storm Kiara, actually. It blew a branch of the maple tree outside into my house through the window, and there was a cluster of seeds which were already beginning to come alive a little bit. So I had to plant them. And then I had something like 5 little maple trees. And very curiously, even though they were all planted exactly the same time, they all have a completely different life. So one of them grew into this big tree, and then one of them died, and the other 4 are little trees. So it's really fascinating how that happened. My maple tree. But it was really significant because actually that storm happened after I came back from this very big long walk, which is sort of an artistic research, but also pilgrimage, where I walked for 6 weeks in a straight line, more or less, from Holland to Ireland, through England, following the river systems.
Fantastic. And how does that influence your way of composing, or how does that inspire you? What does that bring? That nature, the surroundings, the following of the birth of a maple tree, walking the rivers, it connects to your music somehow.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very interesting question because in a way, notes and music is such a separate thing, almost an abstract thing, depending on how you look at it. But somehow for me, when I write music, it's always about making a connection with something, or even further, having a conversation with something. Despite, as you get to meet a person, for example, for the first time, then through conversation, then you begin to get to know them, and then a friendship forms. And I find that you can also do that with places or objects or historical figures through music, by thinking about them and sort of creating a portrait of that through what you know about it. And even you might not know everything, but somehow what you get from it you can bring to life through melody, or because every note and every connection of notes has a reference which has a sort of memory, or a collective memory that fits, that it has a context in culture. So it sort of creates a road to a place or a thing or a thought, wherever that lies. So it's not so abstract, actually. It forms a connection, it forms a conversation, and then therefore, in a way, you form a sort of friendship with the thing, with the surrounding, with the idea. It's not just about people. I heard someone recently say it's about creating empathy, actually, about being able to feel not just another person, but in order to feel everything around you.
That's such a beautiful image, beautiful sketch. Yeah, very nice. And can you tell something about the pieces that you wrote for the cello octet that were performed here during the festival?
Yeah, sure. It's really great because they performed today a concertante version of 3 of my pieces, which are then performed again next week in a music theatre piece, Instant Loneliness, where these pieces and a few other pieces have been made into this overall...
Oh, they are part of the Instant Loneliness project.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the pieces... a combination of pieces that are written especially for this project, Instant Loneliness, and also old pieces that I wrote. And they span my entire oeuvre of or folio of compositions from when I was very young. They play one piece which I wrote in 1998, and then another piece which I wrote last year, and all the other pieces sort of...
Wow, that's beautiful. Do you hear your own development as a composer in those pieces?
Yeah, for sure.
What do you hear? What do you notice?
All the questions that I had, all the sort of...
Are they answered now?
I think so, actually, to be honest, because I heard the concert this morning and I thought, wow, I mean, it was a great pleasure to hear it, but I really felt like those pieces were from another era or something. Like they felt like old pieces, which is that I haven't experienced this yet. This is the first time. So I think like everything that's happened in the last 2 years has been like changed everything. There's a paradigm shift. And therefore, I think the music's also changing somehow, at least for me.
And is also the Instant Loneliness project connected to that, to the time that we're living in?
Well, I guess so. I mean, curiously, we planned this project. It was already in the works before Corona appeared, and the subject, the title and the subject about instant loneliness was already written.
That's amazing, because it feels like it is written for this period in which we all had to stay at home. And
certainly, it was like a big coincidence. Yeah. And this was like, I think this was the first project that I had that was affected by everything, because it was already going to be performed pretty much right on when the lockdown happened, and we had to find other ways to go
You
further.
did a beautiful living room project with this one, right?
Yeah. One of the pieces which I wrote especially for the theatre piece was taken on by the octet, and because they were lamenting the fact that they couldn't make it into a theatre piece, so they were thinking, how can we bring it to life anyway? And therefore they made this beautiful video, which then, because the piece itself was called Sad Melody, I made a series of sad melodies because I felt sad. I felt like everybody felt sad. And so we made a piece which was about our experience at that moment, where everybody was inside, and how we could communicate with each other despite the fact that we couldn't be in the same room with each
And it was
other.
actually beautiful to see those cellists in their own living room playing Instant Loneliness, being alone and yet together because of your music.
Yeah, for sure. Or as a team. Yeah, for sure.
Very beautiful. And Kate, the other piece that was performed during this festival was 3 of your songs for the Vonk ensemble project.
Yeah.
Totally different approach, I can imagine, with texts written by Lucky Fons and Nancy Campbell for you, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell something about the way that you work with lyrics or poetry?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm finding it my way in interpreting text and poetry more and more. It's something that's quite recent, or at least I have written text-based compositions before, but in the past couple of years I've been doing it a lot more, and it's challenging because in a way, because you're working with the artistry of someone else, and they have their own thought about it, their own, perhaps even their own music.
Do you ever write your own lyrics?
Well, that's an interesting question. Not so much, but I would like to try it more. I find it really interesting, but then I'm also very self-critical as well. When I write things down, I feel like I'm not worthy, or like I can't find the rhythm in the way that a professional would do it. I'm not sure if that's insecurity but I think it's an interesting challenge that I'd like to try. But I like working with written text because I like it's sort of like a treasure hunt in a way, because you have this text written on a page and you read it, and then on first reading you get sort of an overall picture, and then on every subsequent reading you get more and more depth. But the point where you really feel the words and what they mean, you find music. I find that the music comes out. It's sort of like mining. You're sort of digging in the poetry to find the music.
How
and
does
then
that happen? Is it in structure or in rhythm or in
It's very
sound?
mysterious. It's really like you have clay and you're digging away the clay, and then there's this beautiful stone underneath. It's like this stream of colour.
So you have to spend quite some time with the poem before you can start thinking in music, actually.
Yeah, actually, yeah. It doesn't come immediately. It's really, even with the simplest thing, it takes a while for it to really go into the system, into my ears and into my mind and in my imagination. Because I really want to understand the text. I have a responsibility to understand the text in the most with the most clarity that I can have. So I really like that process. It's challenging, but I find that and it's very rewarding because it also brings out different music in me as well. I can't control it so much. I have to let the words speak. So,
Because there's another art form involved.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the inherent melody and the underground harmony and the rhythm is there already. I can't work against it. So with all my tools, with all my sort of habits, I come to this and I'm like, if I impose it on there, it just doesn't work. It's like two things which are at odds with each other, two different voices. So I have to take a deep breath and let everything go and just like let it come.
That sounds very comfortable, actually.
For sure.
So that is the 2 pieces that were performed during this festival.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, you must be working on something. So what's cooking?
I have a few things cooking. Well, just in the last couple of weeks, I have a new album released on Sounds, which is Revolver. So I'm very happy about that. And I'm also working on a big cycle, also of using text from a poet, a Renaissance poet from Italy, Isabella de Mora. And in January, this is going to be performed at the Musiekgebouw it's been a really big project, and it's a research project as well, trying to also understand more about her and her context, but then also how that sort of speaks in a modern time. So that's with Ensemble Score de Tura and Wishful Singing and Hertz Ensemble.
Your own ensemble.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, it's very
so
exciting.
that's what we're looking forward for.
I hope so.
Yes.
I am.
Kate, I want to thank you very much for being here and having this conversation, and we will hear much more of your music, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.